Hey everyone, and welcome to AMC Movie Talk for movie fans. I'm your host, Jenna Phillips, and this is our daily show giving you all the latest news from the world of movies with insight into what it all means. And joining me as always is AMC Editor-in-Chief, John Campea.
Greetings and salutations, everybody. It's a triumphant morning. Huzzah, the day is ours. I was actually at the my first NBA playoff game last night.
So jealous.
I went to the Clipper game last night. It was one hell of a game. Had a very good time. So I'm in a very good, if yet extremely tired mood this morning.
All right, let's get started. The first trailer for Thor, The Dark World has been released online. In the trailer, we see familiar faces such as Chris Hemsworth, Natalie Portman, Anthony Hopkins, and Tom Hiddleston. John, what did you think of the new trailer?
Before I say what exactly I thought of the new trailer, I got to reemphasize the fact that Thor is my favorite Marvel film other than the Avengers, because, you know, there's Avengers, then there's everything else. And I even liked Thor more than the first Iron Man, which we all love. And so I've been so excited for this trailer and for this new movie, which unfortunately is still months and months and months away. I loved the trailer as a first trailer. And one of the things that really stood out to me about the trailer is the fact, and in the poster that we saw a few days ago, was none of us have really known what type of a role Tom Hiddleston was going to play in this film. Was it just going to be like an odd little cameo here and there? Was it going to be a significant role? But then that first poster came out the other day. And in the poster, we see at the top, starring Chris Hemsworth, Natalie Portman, Anthony Hopkins, and Tom Hiddleston, which kind of told me, oh, maybe he's actually got more of a significant role, which I love, because Hiddleston as Loki is like just one of the pivotal things about these Thor films. But then the trailer comes, and I love the fact that near the end of that trailer, the thing that it appears the whole trailer is really setting up, because it's showing that things are dark, things are grim. What's Thor going to do? He's going to turn to Loki. And then we see Loki sitting in that cell, and the little banter almost had kind of a, speaking of Anthony Hopkins, it almost had a little bit of a Hannibal Lecter kind of feel to it. You know, I almost expected him to call Thor Clarice or something. But I really, as a first trailer that is like 5 months early or 4 months early, whatever, I really loved it. Now, if this was the final trailer, like 3 or 4 weeks before the film came out, I'd say, yeah, it's okay. But as a first trailer this far out, I'm very excited by what I see. I'm very stoked for it, and I'm dying to see Thor.
Nobody makes me bleed my own blood. Well, maybe they do if you get on the Dodgeball court. The Hollywood Reporter is reporting that Fox Studios and Ben Stiller's Red Hour have hired writer Clay Tarver to pen the script for Dodgeball 2. John, are we ready for more Dodgeball?
I have been ready for more Dodgeball for 10 years.
It's been 10 years.
I actually put... It's not quite as good as this film, but I kind of put it in the same category as Anchorman. It's one of these comedies that should just be nothing but stupid. It should just be stupid. We shouldn't enjoy it. But my God, I love Anchorman, and I loved Dodgeball. I quoted that movie. I still quote that movie.
I know.
If you can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball. If you can dodge traffic, you can dodge a ball. I love Rip Torn in that movie. And you look at the cast. I mean, really sit back and look at the cast you had. Like, obviously you have Vince Vaughn, you got Ben Stiller, but you got Justin Long, you got Rip Torn, you got Stephen Root, who's just one of these underappreciated gems of an actor in Hollywood. You've got Alan Tudyk from Firefly and Serenity and Tucker and Dale versus Evil. He's so great. You got Jason Bateman as this weird commentator. You got Gary Cole as this other weird commentator. It's just a wonderfully put together cast. The humor is much like Anchorman humor. It's just one shot. It hits you in the face. You think you recover, and then it hits you in the face again. So yeah, I'm super excited that we're getting a Dodgeball 2. For me, it can't come fast enough.
Yeah, me too. Robert De Niro and Shia LaBeouf are teaming up for some father and son spy work. It's being reported that De Niro and LaBeouf are attached to play a father-son spy team in Spy's Kid for Paramount, which is described as a catch-me-if-you-can-esque story set in the world of espionage. LaBeouf's Disturbia director, DJ Caruso, is in talks to take the helm, and the project is based on a series of articles published in the Oregonian by Brian Denson that tell the true story of a CIA veteran convicted of spying who enlisted his son to continue his work from behind bars. John, do you like the sound of Spy's Kid?
Sure, this is the Robert Rodriguez film, right? This is like part 4. Spy. Oh no, it's Spy Kids. Oh, Spy's Kid.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, obviously, look, Robert De Niro has not been the same Robert De Niro for a very long time. Every once in a while, he gives us a killer performance, but for the most part, he's been basically mailing it in for like 15 years, even though he's got the potential in him to still be one of the world's great actors. But whenever he's in something, you got my attention. Shia, on the other hand, is one of these guys that does simply not get the credit he deserves. When people think of Shia, they just instantly think of Transformers. And if they don't like Transformers, then they don't like Shia. And obviously they didn't like the fact that, he was in that terrible Indiana Jones film.
Yeah.
But they blame him for it being a terrible movie, and they shouldn't. Shia LaBeouf is a great actor. Steven Spielberg sees it, and I'm all due respect to you, my friends. I'll take Steven Spielberg's opinion of an actor over yours, and over mine, and over anything else. If Spielberg says this kid's got it, then I believe he's got it. And when you look at the films that he's been, especially Lawless was such a triumph for a lot of actors. You just really see this guy has what it takes to be a great, maybe not one of the top 5 actors in the business, but a legit A-lister. So I like anything he's in. It's also very curious to me that DJ Caruso may be directing this. Because not only did they work together with Shia LaBeouf in Disturbia, which was a really nice little film, they also worked together in Eagle Eye, which was not a memorable film, but not a bad little throwaway actioneer kind of movie. And what was really interesting is that for the longest time, there have been talk, and I think it's fallen apart now, there's been talk about DJ Caruso and Shia LaBeouf teaming up to do Why the Last Man. And Why the Last Man, for those of you who don't know anything about it, it's this graphic novel series about just one day people wake up and every male on the planet is dead. And not just humans, like animals too, except for this one dude and his pet monkey. And they don't know why, but they're the last 2 males on the planet. It's a fascinating read. And those two, I thought Shia would have been a great choice, but I think that's fallen apart. But they were talking about doing that movie for years. So put LaBeouf in with De Niro, kind of a spy thriller, a little bit more of a serious tone with some action overtures, like an espionage type of film. Yeah, sign me up. I'm on board. Yeah, let's do it.
Insomniac Games announced today that an animated Ratchet and Clank movie is coming to theaters in 2015. The company put out a statement today saying, "We've wanted to do a movie for a long time. Ratchet and Clank's action, humor, and galaxy-spanning adventures have really been the basis for a fantastic game series, and we think it would translate perfectly to the big screen." John, good idea for a Ratchet and Clank animated film.
Okay, full disclosure, I have never played a Ratchet and Clank game. So, anything I say about this, you have to take with a giant grain of salt because, like I said, full disclosure, I've never played it. But that being said, the thing that I love about this news, which I have wondered a long time, why do studios and game companies not do this more? They're making it an animated film. Why have more people not just gone this route? A lot of these video games would be much better suited as animated, whether it's serious or more lighthearted, like obviously a Ratchet and Clank would be. Why not go the animated route? Now, doing an animated film today is a lot more expensive than it was, say, 20 years ago. I mean, it's a mega expensive proposition, but I think a lot more exists that you can stay true and keep the game fans happy if you go the animated route. Now, obviously, some games would be better suited as live action films, absolutely. But seeing that Ratchet and Clank is going this route, I think this is fantastic news for them. I think it's going to be fantastic news for the fans of the game. And it really leaves me wondering, why have more studio companies not gone this route? Now, we've seen Halo try to do some animated stuff, but just as short pieces. And I know a lot of Halo fans have said for years, do a Halo animated film, because you can actually do it right in an animated universe without making it a $300 or a $400 million film. And I really think that's the way to go. Once again, some games I think would be better suited to a live action translation, but for the most part, I think there's a lot of video games that could be done much better and probably much more faithfully to keep the game fans happy if they did it in an animated world. So I'm really encouraged by this news. I'm very curious to see how, number one, how it turns out, but number two, how the public responds to it and game fans respond to it. Well, listen, folks, we've reached the time of the show for Mailbag. If you've got a topic or a question you would like us to address on air, email us anytime at amcmovietalk@gmail.com. Now, I get a lot of people emailing me and saying, John, what have I done to offend you? Why have you not used one of my questions? Well, it's just because we get a lot of questions. So if you get your show on air, congratulations to you. Every day we pick a few out of the mailbag and use them on the show. Jenna's got a few of them picked out right now. So, Jenna, what do we got?
Ray Hines writes, hey guys, love the show. I catch it every day. You guys are the best in the movie information business.
Oh, thank you.
That is nice. There's only one choice to play Batman, and after seeing Dredd, how can the world not see Karl Urban as the Dark Knight? Just watch the scene where he says, Mama is not the law, I'm the law. Back me up, Big John. Urban dons the cape and cowl in 2016. Boom.
First of all, Ray, I'm so glad that you are one of the few people who watched that Dredd movie because, you know, guys like Jimmy O and me and Amy Rose, we've been saying forever, this Dredd movie, as horrible as it looked, because I'm going to be the first person to tell you, and I told the guys at Lionsgate this, the trailers were awful. It was a terribly marketed film. But the movie was great. Such a good movie, and I'm so glad you watched it and appreciated Karl Urban's performance in that movie, especially when you consider that you never saw his eyes. I mean, to pull off a great, memorable performance without seeing an actor's eyes is amazing. Now, I've actually got a lot of tweets and email from people who have seen Dredd saying, Karl Urban's the guy. After seeing Dredd, Karl Urban's the guy. I have to respectfully disagree. And look, you've seen me talk to Karl. I love Karl. He was on my panel that I do at Comic-Con this past year. He's a great guy to hang out with, and he's a super gifted actor. I've been a fan of his since before a lot of people even knew his name. I love Karl Urban, but I don't necessarily think he's right for Batman. I think he's too small of a guy to play Batman, number one. I mean, he's shorter than me. I want a monster playing Batman. That's what I want. But the thing is, nobody thought of Karl Urban as Batman until we saw Dredd. And why? This is why. Because he kept a stern look on his face and spoke in a growly voice. He's Karl Urban. He's Bones in Star Trek. But do this. I'm the law. And all of a sudden, everybody thinks he's Batman. Look, I can be Batman. I'm the law. There! I just did everything needed. Now, all I'm missing is the 6 o'clock shadow, but give me the 6 o'clock shadow, and I'm the law. I'm suddenly Batman. And it's funny for me to sit back and see that nobody ever mentions Karl Urban as Batman until we see him keep a stern look on his face and say, I'm the law. And now, wait a minute, now he's the only, look, any actor with a 6 o'clock shadow, a square chin, and he has a magnificently square iron jaw, and who speaks in a growly voice would have looked the same to you and me. You know, put that mask on him, make him growl, I'm the law. And then all of us could see that actor. We could see Pauly Shore playing Batman for that. So I personally am not on board, my friends, with Karl Urban as Batman. I just think he's just physically too small to play that character. I think being a really big guy is a core essential element to who Batman is. I've said that for a long time. But once again, I just think the only reason so many people are emailing me about it is because he spoke in a growly voice and had a stern look on his face. And that's not a difficult thing to do. I just did it. It's not that hard. So for that reason, my friends, although I love Karl Urban and I'll see him just about anything, I'm personally not on board for the Karl Urban as Batman bandwagon.
Yeah, I disagree with you on Pauly Shore, though. So
yeah, I might have gone too far with that.
All right, Rob McGee writes, hey guys, love the show. I have been having an argument with a friend on the character development of Loki in the coming movies. He thinks that they'll do a redemption story culminating with his death, whereas I think that would be too unfaithful to Thor's arch nemesis. What are your thoughts on this?
Thanks for the question, Rob. It's a fascinating question, because it brings up a couple of very big issues. Not only are we talking about Loki in general, but your question also alludes to, you know, how closely should movies stick to source material. Here's my philosophy on this. If you're going to do a comic book franchise, start as faithful to the characters, not necessarily the story. Stick faithful to the characters, and then take your movies where you want to take them. Let the movies be the movies. Let the comic books be the comic books. Let them cross over and have shared plot points, however, where you can and where it makes sense. But for me, and for the most part, do your movie. And I think that some of the Dark Knight is not a page-for-page translation of any of the Batman comics, but it was magnificent as a movie. But it was faithful to kind of the characteristics of who the Joker is. It was faithful to the characteristics of who Batman was. So be faithful to the characters and then do your own story. I think the first couple of X-Men movies did that, and they were magnificent, especially X-Men 2. Spider-Man 2 is not a page-by-page translation of any of the Spider-Man comic books, yet it was fairly faithful to the characters themselves, and so it was a magnificent film. Same with Avengers. So I'm all for, don't worry about being faithful to the stories in the comic as the story progresses. Be more concerned about making a good story. Now let's get to Loki. I am going to agree with actually your friends, Rob, a little bit. I don't think they're going to actually do a full-on redemption story. But one of the things that I love about Loki in the movie universe that they've done so far is that he is not a one-dimensional, mustache-twirling, whoa, I'm the bad guy. He's not that. We've always seen in Loki, both in Thor and in Avengers, moments of conflict. Like, there's parts of him that really want nothing more than to be with his brother and be with his father. And, you can still tell there's parts of him that love them. And really, if you look at Thor, ultimately, all he was really wanting to do, he wasn't trying to overthrow his dad. He wasn't trying to kill his dad. What he really wanted to do was make his dad proud of him. And he went about it all the wrong way, and his jealousy of his brother got the best of him, blah, blah. So we see even in Avengers, there's those moments of moral conflict. And I think it'd be really cool to explore those moving forward. To go full-on redemption, I don't know about that, because Loki and Tom Hiddleston playing him is such a great villain, that I think I'd like to see him stay on that side of the tracks. But yeah, I'd hope in this new Thor film that maybe there is some of that, look, I hate you, but you're my brother, so I'm going to help you out this one time, and I'll screw you over later. But for now, nobody gets to kick your ass except me. I'd love to see some of that between him and Thor. And so yeah, maybe not a full-on redemption story, but even though it's not really in line with the comic arc and the direction that the character goes in the comics, I would like to see more of that moral dilemma with Loki, because I think that's his biggest strength.
Braden Pearson writes, a subscriber from Australia here. Wow. I have been watching your show for around 4 months now and am hooked on hearing your perspectives on movies. Now, this question I have argued with my friends about for quite a while now, try at least 2 years, and every time it comes up, I get shut down. I would like to know, say if you knew someone like I do, who has never seen any Star Wars before.
I don't associate with those people.
Yeah, he says he feels like punching them.
Yeah.
Would you suggest to them to watch the trilogy from order of movies created, beginning episode 4, 5, and 6, then 1, 2, and 3, or in order of episodes beginning 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6? Thanks, and keep up the good work.
Thank you for the question, Braden, and thanks for watching from Australia. Braden, listen to me, all right? The question is flawed, because you've only offered me 2 options here.
Oh.
And both of the options that you've presented to me entail recommending, in whatever order, that people watch episodes 1, 2, and 3. Those films don't exist. They don't. Friends don't recommend episodes 1, 2, and 3 to friends in any order. They don't exist. There is one Star Wars trilogy, and that's episodes 4, 5, and 6. Now, I'm a lifelong Star Wars fan. I've told the story before. My earliest childhood memory is my mom taking me to see the original Star Wars when I was just like 4 years old. It is the most defining, influential thing in my creative life ever. My journey to Mecca was when I finally had a chance to go to Skywalker Ranch and sit in George Lucas's office. And I mean, that to me, that was my Mecca. It was, Star Wars has defined my life like nothing else. And that's really sad when I say it like that, but it's true. I didn't get laid a lot as a kid.
Nobody did.
No, I didn't. So, I mean, I get a lot of heat when I talk so negatively about the prequels. I tried to delude myself for a while, thinking, no, they're not that bad. They're not that bad. And then I had to really acknowledge myself. They were really that bad. But I have this argument with some other Star Wars fans who will say to me quite often, if you're not a real fan unless you embrace all of Star Wars. If you're rejecting Star Wars episodes 1, 2, and 3, then you're not a real Star Wars fan. And here's why I reject that notion and that statement wholeheartedly. You can love your cousin. Let's say, for example, you can love your cousin. You love him. He's family. You love him. But he's got a heroin addiction. Now, that's like you coming to me and saying, well, if you love your cousin, you got to love his heroin addiction too. You got to embrace his heroin addiction, encourage his heroin addiction, promote his heroin addiction. No, if you really love your cousin, you get in his face, you have an intervention, and you do what you can to get him off the crap, and you call crap to their face if you really love them. To me, acknowledging and encouraging episodes 1, 2, and 3 is like encouraging a crack addiction in a beloved family member.
That's a good analogy.
That ain't love. That ain't love. And I love Star Wars too much to accept episodes 1, 2, and 3. And I really hope J.J. Abrams is going to take us in a completely different direction. So to answer your question, Braden, the answer is neither of your options. It's just episodes 4, 5, and 6, and leave it at that.
Erica Mans writes, okay, I love this show. I watch you guys every single day before my shift. Anyway, my question is, why is it that almost every single movie coming out now is either a remake or a sequel? Why doesn't Hollywood do anything original anymore? So yeah, why is it almost everything a remake or sequel now?
Great question. I get comments and questions like this all the time, especially when we hear about a new remake or a new sequel coming out. We will often see on the chat boards and emails coming in of people lamenting to the heavens, shaking their fists, saying, why? Why nothing but remakes and sequels? It's nothing but remakes and sequels. But what I try to tell my friends is, look, wait a minute, calm down, take a step back and keep this in perspective. There's not all that many reboots and sequels. I know it feels like it, especially when you're on a show like ours, because we tend to talk a lot about the reboots or the sequels. But one of the reasons we talk a lot about them is because they're all names of films, because it's a sequel that we're all familiar with. When I'm talking to you about, I don't know, Fast and Furious 6, we're talking on common ground because we all have Fast and the Furious films in our past. We've seen them, we know them, and so we can talk about Fast and Furious 6. When we talk about a reboot, well, it's about a movie you've heard of, so we can talk about some common ground. So we don't, talk a lot well in advance of like new and original films well in advance until they're getting closer to coming out, because it's not something that you as the audience member have a lot of familiarity with. But to just reemphasize my point that it's not every movie out there is a sequel or a reboot. As a matter of fact, they're in the minority. They're in the vast minority. I've pulled up the Box Office Mojo, and Dennis, you might want to bring this up. This Box Office Mojo film release schedule. We're going to start in January. Let's look at the films that have been released so far this year. So we're going to start in January. Okay, we're going to start with Texas Chainsaw Massacre. All right, that was a reboot and a sequel, actually. So there's that one. Then we move down. We've got Gangster Squad, not a reboot or a sequel. We've got A Haunted House, not a reboot or a sequel. We've got Broken City, not a reboot or a sequel. The Last Stand, not a reboot or a sequel. Mama, not a reboot or a sequel. Then we've got Hansel and Gretel, Witch Hunters, bad, but not a reboot or a sequel. Movie 43, also bad, but not a reboot or a sequel. And Parker, not a reboot or a sequel. All right, so let's move on to February then. There we go. We've got Bullet to the Head, not a reboot or a sequel. Stand Up Guys, not a reboot or a sequel. Warm Bodies, not a reboot or a sequel. We got Identity Thief, not a reboot or a sequel. Side Effects, not a reboot or a sequel. Beautiful Creatures, not a reboot or a sequel. Escape from Planet Earth, not a reboot or a sequel. A Good Day to Die Hard, there, we've got a sequel. We've also got Safe Haven, not a reboot or a sequel. Dark Skies, not a reboot or a sequel. Snitch, not a reboot or a sequel. All right, let's move into March. In March, we've got 21 and Over, not a reboot or a sequel. Jack the Giant Slayer, not a reboot or a sequel. The Last Exorcism Part 2, there we got a sequel. Phantom, not a reboot or a sequel. Dead Man Down, not a reboot or a sequel. Oz the Great and Powerful is weird. It's not a reboot. It's not a sequel. It's kind of a prequel based on the book. But you know what? For this argument's sake, let's put it in the category of a reboot or a sequel. So there's one. Then we go down to The Call, not a reboot or a sequel. The Incredible Burt Wonderstone, not a reboot or a sequel. Admission, not a reboot or a sequel. The Croods, not a reboot or a sequel. Olympus Has Fallen, not a reboot or a sequel. How do you see a pattern developing here? My point is that, yeah, sometimes because there's a lot of talk, a lot of websites and movie shows like us will talk a lot about reboots or sequels. And so when a new one gets announced, it can feel like there's a lot of them. But I just gave you stone cold proof. We just went through 3 months of releases this year. And what do we come up with? 3 of them out of like 25 or 30 films. So I understand it can feel like it's all reboots and sequels, but it's not. They're still the vast, vast minority of the films that actually get produced. Now, as we get into the summer season, that's going to feel a little bit different because that's the blockbuster season. We're going to get franchise films and recognizable names. So it'll start to skew a little bit more. But even then, there's a lot of the big blockbusters coming out this year are completely original. You got films like Pacific Rim and so forth. So I know it feels like it, but they're not all reboots and sequels. As a matter of fact, they're still the vast minority. Anyway, folks, that'll do for us. We've actually run out of time. Thank you so much for joining us. Listen, while I've got you, before you do anything else, people ask me all the time, how can we support the show? Well, we don't actually need any of your money, but what you can do to support us is click that thumbs up button and click the subscribe button. Become a subscriber to our AMC Movie News YouTube channel. It'll keep you up to date on everything going on in the world of movie news and, of course, our daily AMC Movie Talk show. You can follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/AMC Theaters. Like us on Facebook at facebook.com/AMC Theaters. Go on out and see a movie tonight. Oblivion is doing great. Tom Cruise's biggest box office release in like 7 years. Head on over to www.amctheaters.com to get all your theater and showtime and ticket information. If you want an audio-only version of this show so you can listen to us on the treadmill or on your commute to work, look in the description of this video and you can find links to our iTunes and our Stitcher radio. And once again, click that subscribe button. I want to thank, as always, our very lovely host, Miss Jenna Phillips.
Thank you.
And thank you to you guys. Listen, the most important part of the show is not what we have to say. It's irrelevant. It's what you have to say. Make sure you jump down to the comment section and leave your thoughts on any or all of the topics that we discuss here today. I guarantee you I read every single one of them. So once again, thanks so much for joining us. Until tomorrow, my name is John Campy for AMC Movie News. Bye-bye.